Yet people are taking some space in the Waters household. I'll have you know that I was not invited to my mother's house for Thanksgiving. Apparently, there wasn't enough room.
Well, hello, and welcome to my series where Trump supporters F around and find out and realize that actions do have consequences that directly affect them and not just the people that they hate.
My brother and his fiance uninvited me from their wedding, and now I have the wonderful pleasure of uninviting them from holiday activities because they voted for Donald Trump. My brother gets free healthcare, my brother goes to school for free, and I helped him apply for all of those government programs. In addition to that, I gave my brother a free BMW SUV. He drives a free car, I pay for his car insurance, and I pay for his cell phone bill. In addition to that, he lives at home and completely relies on the financial assistance of my mother. So this boy has the audacity to not only vote for Donald Trump, who is against women like myself and my mother, but then he has the audacity, after my mother was crying all day yesterday, he comes home celebrating his victory and rubbing it in my mom's face. Now I understand we all have different opinions and political views, but you do not go to the home of a woman who financially supports you and rub it in her face. Go ahead, laugh about it with your friends, laugh about it with your unemployed fiance. It has now been over a month that I cut my brother off and I no longer answer his phone calls because the only reason he called me anyway was when he needed money. And I know that's really hard to do. And I know right now a lot of people are going to have some very uncomfortable Thanksgivings and Christmases. I really encourage you all to protect your peace. I'm not saying that you need to cut out every single person in your life that doesn't agree with you politically. But if after this election, someone is literally taunting you, laughing at your face, and disrespecting you, that person doesn't need to be in your life.
This girl gets it. A lot of people online are talking about how much better their lives have gotten since cutting off their friends and family who supported Trump. And they're realizing that they were the givers in their relationship, offering their time, money, and emotional support. And losing what might be some of the only empathy and support these people have in their lives is really having an effect on them. But they should be grateful. They're being upgraded to MAGA world full time. And in this episode of Parents Standing on Business, this Redditor posts, "My brother is angry with his Trump-loving sons." Is my brother and am I the a-hole candidate for wanting to cut off his sons financially for voting for Trump? Like many Americans, my brother and I, both in our mid-50s, have been talking back and forth following the election. In the spirit of full disclosure, we are both Democrats. Long story short, he is angry at his two sons, both in their 20s, for voting for Trump. He is thinking about cutting them off financially in all respects so that they understand how Trump's policies will affect them firsthand. Okay, purr. He says the irony here is that it is the reverse argument. You often hear younger voters disagreeing with their MAGA parents, but this is the opposite. My brother doesn't understand how his two sons who have lived a life of privilege feel like they have been violated by society enough so that they feel like Trump hears them in their struggles. My brother said to me about his sons, "What these young men need is a little dose of reality. Get out in the world and start paying their own way." There's a common thread with his followers. Complain and blame everyone for their problems, whether they're in school or living at home off their parents or working a trade job. King Trump will save them and make everything better. Take some personal responsibility and make it happen for yourself instead of crying about everything you hear on TikTok. I'm wondering if a lot of parents feel like my brother. Are there Democrat parents of voting age MAGA men who feel like they failed with their sons because they voted for Trump? Now, for me, I think that this guy is being a really good parent because he's going to show them just how good they had it. And it's definitely fair for them to do that because they need to be financially independent. And this sounded like something that he needed to do completely separate from politics. And this is the only way that they're going to learn some perspective. Did you guys hear that story about that woman who wrote her own daughter out of her will because she voted for Trump and donated her entire inheritance to charity? Now that's standing on business. Coming in hot, we have the Black Trump supporters discouraged that Trump is making no efforts to include Black people in his cabinet, with Candace Owens tweeting that she's very upset she wasn't even considered to be ambassador to Israel, with one commentator stepping up to remind her, "It's because you're Black." It's probably hard for her to grapple with, but always have been, always will be. It's shocking, right? That someone with such a well-documented history of profiting from systemic racism, mocking immigrants, Black people, disabled people, pretty much anyone who isn't white, a convicted felon and rapist, could act in such a horrible and predictable manner. But I think that this commentator really summarized the depth of how Black MAGA voters are feeling about this. He says, "Bro, we voted for you. Hire some of us." Facepalm. Facepalm indeed, Tom. This man tweeted, "I've got a 26-year-old nephew. He's Black MAGA. but I don't speak to him much anymore. Last week, his company downsized and he was released. He says he hates handouts, but he has to file for unemployment and Medicaid because he no longer has insurance. Yet he voted against these social safeguard programs. Now he needs them. FAFO, Gossip Girl.
The fuck around and find out. So this morning, I was walking my dog. I heard a car pull up next to me, and it was my neighbor Jack. And Jack is an older white man. He lives in California now for a long time, but he's from, I think, Boston, so he's got that accent. And Jack and I have always been pretty friendly, despite Jack being of a certain generation and making certain comments. I've always just kind of been like, whatever. So he pulls up next to me and he says, "Are you mad at me?" And I said, "Jack, I'm mad at everybody. I'm mad at the world. I'm mad at men. I'm mad at people who voted for Trump. I'm mad that he won. Did you vote for Trump?" He said, "I have a son. I have a son. And he hasn't spoken to me for 7 years because I voted for Trump the first time." And I said, "7 years, huh?" I said, "Okay, so I guess you voted for him the second time too. Did you vote for him this third time?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, then we're done here. And good for your son." And Jack's face was so sad. And he was so confused and didn't know why I'm having this response. Apparently, he hasn't learned from his son disowning him 7 years ago, which bravo for the son. Good for you. He expects me to be his friend. He still wants his liberal lesbian friend to smile at him and say hi and have funny little banter back and forth. No, babe, that's over. That's over. All your little weird little old man comments, nope, done. Judging you for all of them. In fact, don't speak to me. Don't talk to me. We are not friends anymore. So after I explained this to him that we are not going to be friends anymore and I don't give a shit about him, he's dead to me, he has the nerve to say to me, "Look, in 4 years, everything's going to be fine. And maybe we can talk then." Fuck no. Go fuck yourself, Jack. No, babe.
Thoughts and tariffs, I guess. You can shop my line below. Now, apparently, some F around and find out has found Dr. Phil. Remember the guy from television who got up at that rally and announced diversity and inclusion and said all of those hateful things? Yeah, that guy. Well, he's come out in a statement recently that he is no longer endorsing Donald Trump. It might be a little too late because he's already elected, but oh well. He said he doesn't believe in Donald Trump's policies anymore and regrets getting up on that stage. Does it involve money? I bet it involves money. Shocked Pikachu face. Well, since he spoke at that rally, his pocketbooks have been getting hit hard. Investors pulled their capital real fast, and his portfolio tanked. As if all the people he was hating on decided to not watch his show anymore, buy any of his shit. He said the only reason he endorsed Donald Trump and agreed to speak was because he initially contacted Harris's team and offered to endorse her, but they declined. And his ego was so fragile and butthurt that he ran over to support Trump instead out of spite. He should have stood by his man. And now he doesn't have the support of either side. I don't like Dr. Phil, but I love this for him. God bless America. And up next, we have this post on Reddit from this millennial man who voted for Trump and just learned history. He says, "I was wrong about Trump, and so are all of us. He isn't just a fascist. He's the Fourth Reich." I was just doing some research into his and Elon's new Department of Government Efficiency, and now I have to say that I'm sorry for not really believing you all on this, because Trump, I now think, is a bigger threat to America in general, not just women or those of minority. Have you all looked into this? The goal of the new branch is to remove dead weight from the government, even elected officials who are not carrying their weight, and will be replaced by the president. And who decides who will be dead weight? The president. Sound familiar? It should. Let me put it this way and ask you all this. You know who else instituted governmental practices to weed out those that were anti-establishment for his regime? To eliminate democracy in his nation by destroying the political presence of his enemies in order to establish a firm hand in power? One that could not be rivaled, all the while surrounding himself with like-minded people to get his agenda done. And what branch did they do this with? Have you guessed yet? Yeah, I'm talking Adolf Hitler and the Gestapo. He then concludes with his groundbreaking revelation that Trump is literally making the Gestapo here in America to eliminate any threat his political enemies pose. He's not making America great again. He's making America the Fourth Reich. I literally can't with these people. The time to study was before the test, not after. This right here is my personal American horror story.
I haven't spoken to my mom since the week before the election because we got into a big argument about the election where I was basically just begging her to be an informed voter. Crazy, I know. But I decided to break that silence today and text her and say, "Hey, are you aware that Donald Trump just appointed Stephen Miller to be the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy?" And then I said, and are you aware that Stephen Miller has made statements that he is going to turbocharge denaturalization for citizens in this country in 2025? And then I said, do you recall that your brother is married to a naturalized citizen who was born in the Philippines, but married him and is now living here? I said, what about the fact that your nephew, the son she brought with her, not my uncle's biological child, and I don't think he ever legally adopted him, I'm not 100% sure on that. Do you realize he's also a naturalized citizen? And I said, he works for the fake news media as a journalist. I'm sure he wouldn't be a target at all. And then I said, do you realize that in the past, Donald Trump has made really bad remarks about the Philippines and Filipino people? And I texted to her what he said, but I don't know if I can say that on TikTok. So if you want to know, look it up. That was 5 hours ago. It's been crickets since then, which I don't need her to respond. I know what her response would be because it'll be the same as it was when we were having the argument in person. Like, he would never do that. He's not going to do that. It's not going to happen. But here's the thing, Trumpers. They've been telling you what they're going to do. And then you co-signed on those plans when you voted for them and elected them into office. So yeah, they are going to do it because as far as they're concerned, you're A-okay with all the stuff that they were talking about. It was all out there for you to know. You were A-okay with it and voted for it. You just don't like it as soon as you realize how it affects you.
Exactly. They don't care unless it's kicking them in the shins, which is why it's not worth it to waste the breath to explain it to them, because they're in their find out season. It would just be nice if those of us who didn't F around didn't have to find out with them. Now, on a lighter note, with people very upset about election results and the role that Elon Musk played in it, millions of users are deactivating their Twitter accounts and moving over to Blue Sky, 21 million active users, making it the top app in the App Store. And Elon Musk is freaking out because he no longer has access to all that data that he needs to train his AI. A lot of major brands, celebrities, and companies are moving over to Blue Sky and love it, saying it reminds them of old Twitter. The best feature of the site is that you can pretty much block any MAGA influencer or material that you don't want to see. And the creators of Blue Sky spent a lot of money to make sure that bots couldn't take over the site and put in a lot of mechanisms to make it easy to block trolls. Andrew Tate was banned within 24 hours, which is hilarious. And all of the conservatives who've tried to join are pissed because there's no one to argue with. And they're over on Twitter pissed about the same thing. So for me, this is a win-win.